Hey, 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 welcome to AAA Wednesday. This is my weekly Q&A session and an opportunity for me to respond directly to questions you've left me in the comments about the publishing industry and writing a better book. For those of you who are wondering, yes, that fluffy brown mound behind me is my puppy Luca, who's not really a puppy anymore. He's 3, but he is here to listen in on all of the excellent questions today. Before we dive in, just a couple of pieces of housekeeping. Number 1, if you're new here, welcome. On my channel, in addition to these Q&A sessions, every week I also publish deep dives either into an aspect of the publishing industry or I talk about writing tips, as my professional background is as a developmental book editor. So if any of that interests you, please go ahead and subscribe to join this amazing community. Number 2, a quick little favor. If you can just hit that thumbs up button, it really does help out my channel a lot and I'd really appreciate it. Without further ado, let's dive into the first question today. Hi Alyssa, I'm an editor at a traditional publisher. Do you have any tips for building trust with debut writers who are brand new to the editorial process? What are some communication strategies for respecting writer concerns while also guiding them through the changes they need to make in order to be successful? Building productive and healthy editorial relationships is really my bread and butter, so I'm really excited about this question. I think what it all comes down to is empathy. Putting yourself in the author's shoes and understanding that the critiques that you are presenting them are likely going to be overwhelming to deal with. Let your author know that it's okay if they need to take a break after reading your feedback, if they need to take a week to mull it over before getting back to you. Set those expectations from the very beginning of your work together so they know that you're on their team and you understand what exactly it is that you are delivering to them. I let all of my authors know that it's completely okay if they go dark for a little bit after I deliver my edits. It's completely okay if they want to throw their computer after I deliver my edits. I understand that. I truly do. Because revision is hard. It's messy. But I let them know that I'm there to help them through it. That is my goal. Another key point that I like to emphasize with my editorial clients is that it's not about my vision for the book at all. My job is to help them realize their vision. And if at any point my feedback or our conversations are straying away from their vision, then that's a problem that we need to address. Authors who have never before worked with an editor, particularly in a developmental editing capacity, sometimes have the misconception that editing is about the editor telling you what to do, and you are in the position of just having to take these edits and they're going to possibly transform your book into something that you didn't want it to become. I tell all of my clients that is not how this is supposed to work. I am your partner. My one and only singular goal is to help them make their book what they want it to be. None of it has to do with me. When you approach the beginning of your editorial partnership with empathy and with that perspective that it's not about you, but it's about you helping them achieve their vision, then you're going to be on the same page from the very beginning. And it's much more likely that the author is going to receive your feedback and your edits really, really well, and they're going to be very appreciative of them. Before we get into the next question today, I wanted to let you know about a free resource I created especially for my YouTube community. The link is in the description below to download my free story self-assessment worksheet. And this is a fun, simple quiz designed to help you see your story from a new perspective and identify how you can take it to the next level. I know self-editing is so challenging because you're so deep in the story you can't see the forest from the trees. That's what I tried to address with this resource here. Downloading that is going to opt you into my newsletter, Chapter Break, where I interview publishing industry insiders and successfully published authors. So many of you are really enjoying the Chapter Break newsletters, so I want to continue doing them and bringing you all of those additional insights. If you want to go straight to the newsletter, the link is also in the description. Here's the next question. My current work in progress novel, literary fiction, is nearly done, but it's barely over 50,000 words. Is it even worth trying to get this traditionally published when I've heard that publishing houses aren't particularly interested in novels that are sub 60,000 words? Word count is a constant source of anxiety, especially when you're trying to traditionally publish, because literary agents and publishers are typically looking for books that fall within a standard length, because the length feeds into the production costs as well as what they can charge readers to purchase the book. So I totally understand why authors get hung up on length. We often talk about manuscripts that are far too long, but in your case, we're talking about a manuscript that's on the cusp of being too short or being a novella length. I do typically advise that for adult fiction, the sweet spot for length is between 60,000 to 90,000 words. Of course, there are exceptions though. At 50,000 words, you're really not too far off from the lower end of that spectrum. And oftentimes it's a bit easier of an edit to add to a manuscript if the story warrants it than to cut down an epic book that is way, way over the standard word count. So personally, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't go ahead and query with your 50,000 word manuscript. If you hear back from literary agents and they are unanimously saying that it's too short, maybe at that point, sit back down and see, do you have room to stretch the story by 10,000 words? Could you expand a certain storyline, for instance? But in general, I think it's a bit of an easier problem to deal with a manuscript that is too short than one that is too long. And the bottom line is you can always try your hand at traditional publishing. The worst that can happen is that agents reject you and tell you that it's too short, right? But you never know unless you try. We have time for one more question today. It's actually a two-part question, but I'll kind of speak to the topic together. Question 1. Can traditionally published authors share their book explanations on YouTube or other sites such as Patreon and Ko-fi as pay to unlock content after their book publication? Question 2. Can traditionally published authors do Patreon or Ko-fi based fundraising as support from their readers? Do traditionally published authors have these rights? So I'm not sure if there are particular clauses in contracts with major publishing houses that would exclude traditionally published authors from putting certain content out on Patreon or Ko-fi. But I would say if the content that is being put behind a paywall for their audience is tangential to the book, maybe it's writing tips or plotting tips, I think that is completely fine, and there's plenty of authors who make an income stream doing just that. I think the question comes down to how much the content that you are asking your audience to pay for is related to your book that is being published through the publishing house. If you are putting excerpts of the book or other elements that are part of the book product itself behind the paywall, that could potentially get tricky. But if you're talking about your experiences as an author, you're offering writing tips, your own personal writing resources, all of that I think would be totally fine to put out on a platform and earn income from it. Of course, any particular ideas you have should be shared with your literary agent, and they'll be able to better advise what might be overstepping the bounds of your publishing contract. But there are plenty of traditionally published authors who have Patreon, who have YouTube channels, and who earn income streams on these platforms. So it's definitely not totally off the table for you to use them yourself. I hope you enjoyed today's session, and if you have a question you'd like to ask me, drop it in the comments here and it will be added to my queue for my next Q&A. Before you head out, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button if you're liking these sessions, hit that subscribe button to join this amazing community, and don't forget your free story self-assessment worksheet and my newsletter link in the description below. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.